we moved to the beach, and we made our way along the beach, and we came to a line of trucks which had been backed out into the sea to form a sort of improvised quay from which people could get onto the boats. And we rested there a little while, and we saw out in the distance a fighter plane turning around, swinging around and coming towards us. We didn't know it was enemy or friendly. And then we saw little lights sparkling along the front wings of the plane, and in a trice we were in a hail of machine gun bullets and cannon shells. But mercifully none of us were injured. So we went on a bit further, and then we came to the boundary between Belgium and France, just a flimsy wire fence which had been trampled down by thousands of soldiers passing through. And then we came in sight of Dunkirk. It was really appalling because petrol tanks in the background had been set on fire, and so there was a great thick cloud of black oily smoke covering the whole place. And there was shelling going on and strafing and machine gunning, and Dante's Inferno would have been a picnic compared with it. But the most fearsome things of the lot were the Stuka dive bombers attacking the ships as they left the quay, the mould from which men had been embarked. And we thought of the poor devils on board who thought they were on their way home just to be sunk by a Stuka. And of course the losses there were terrific. So we eventually in the night we lined up on the to go onto the wooden mow, because we were embarking not from the main harbour, but from a wooden mow which lay to the east of the harbour and went out about 300 or 400 yards into the sea. And it went, first of all, started with a concrete place, and we walked along that, and I looked down to the left. There was a canal down there, and bodies of several British soldiers were lying there, and oddly enough they'd all had the same sort of injury. The tops of their skulls had been taken off as if by a can opener, so obviously they'd been hit by shrapnel bursts from the air, and obviously it was not a very healthy place to be. So we never got on that night because he didn't get as far as the takeoff point. So we went down onto the beach and took up a place well below the start of the mole, and I had a great admiration for Commander Clouston of the Royal Navy, who was helping folk to embark. He was the epitome of calm, a wonderful man, a marvellous specimen of the senior service. But sadly he never made it home. I think his boat was sunk on the way back home. Well, we had a horrible day and night there, of course, and in the morning the shelling and strafing and bombing commenced, and on 3 occasions we were almost buried by near misses and had to dig ourselves out. And eventually, this was the 2nd of June, it was a Sunday evening, and at that time we were in double summertime, so it was very late. It must have been not very far short of midnight, but we knew that people in England, in the churches throughout the land, were thanking God for the folk who had come home and praying for the few who were still left there. And so we managed that night then to get on to the boat. Now, I'd like to read a bit here about the final day, early in the morning, Admiral Wake Walker had returned to Dover from Dunkirk and reported to Admiral Ramsay that about 5,000 British troops and 30 to 40,000 French still remained. About 340,000 troops had already been evacuated, so we were the last dregs in the bottle. Ramsay signalled his whole command. The final evacuation is staged for tonight, and the nation looks to the Navy to see this through. I want every ship to report as soon as possible whether she's fit and ready to meet the call which is made upon our courage and endurance. The call was indeed immense, for the naval losses were almost unbelievable. Of the 848 ships, 235 were lost through enemy action or other causes, and destroyers took the greatest beating. 9 sunk, 5 of them French, and 19 damaged. So we were very, very lucky indeed to get home. But when we got home to Dover, we were quite shocked, because we were met by a sergeant, a drill sergeant from the Guards. He was wearing his red sash, and his space stick was under his arm, and his boots were so bulled you could see his face in them. And he said, "Pull yourselves together. Do you think you're on a Sunday school treat?" And I was full of rage. I wanted to go and bash him down, come what may. But then I realized that although he'd put it very provocatively, he was putting exactly the right tone to us, And so we got on a train and were whisked away. And we kept stopping at stations where wonderful women passed sandwiches and mugs, beakers of tea to us. And we eventually ended up in Leeds, where we were billeted in private houses. What I'd seen there, the Germans strafing the civilians and the ferocity of their attacks on us. We were strafed on the road once, I remember, and I flipped into a ditch and managed to avoid getting hurt. I gradually found my objection vanishing. I wanted to hit back as hard as I could. I had a wonderful feeling of peace, despite all the trauma we'd been through. And I'm sure the comfort came from God, my faith in God, because I realized that even if I were to die, that would not be the end. Because there is life after death.